Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS current affair analysis for 4th June 2020, and these are the couple of articles we'll be dealing today. The first article for the day is taken from the Hindu and it is titled India's Parliament is Missing in Action. As soon as the lockdown was imposed by our government, the government has issued two ordinances. The first one is Parliament has modified its rules to reduce the salaries and allowances of MPs. And secondly, the union government has decided to stop the MP LAT scheme for a time period of 2 years. So these measures were the starting point to save the cost for the nation to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. However, ever since, the parliament has not met. The parliament was adjourned on March 23rd itself, and after that is just the day after the Janata curfew in view of the pandemic. So in the time period just before the lockdown, Parliament was debating issues that could have waited. Say for example, the importance of an Ayurveda institute or the Sanskrit university. We were discussing about the regulatory boards for aircraft, or we were talking about how finance bill was passed without any discussion on the last day. However, there was very little discussion on much needed coronavirus pandemic, and this was one of the major reasons as to why Parliament should be back into business. If we take a look at the other countries across the world, we have an example from Canada, from which we borrowed our federal constitution. In that particular country, roughly 280 of the 338 members of the parliament attended parliament through video conference. Similarly, the British parliament has adopted a hybrid model wherein there is a possibility of attending both in person and video conferencing. So India, with its vast IT power, should consider these kind of solutions. Now, why is the author advocating this type of measures? For that, we have to understand the importance of parliamentary government in our country. So, what are the features of parliamentary government? The first one is the presence of nominal and real executive, which signifies the doctrine of separation of powers and to ensure checks and balances. The second one is majority party rule. However, this does not mean that a majority party can do whatever it wants, and there is a collective responsibility of the executive to the legislature. Now, this accountability or responsibility to stay accountable will happen only on the floor of the parliament. In times of crisis like this, all the MPs must work in unison, and both the opposition parties as well as the ruling party should come together to solve this crisis. As envisaged in our constitution, Parliament has a very important role. The first one is it ensures that it is the institution which checks and challenges the government of the day. So there is this issue of accountability, and right now if the Parliament is not meeting, that principle is not observed. As opposed to the presidential form of government where there is a stability and a centralizing tendency, this parliamentary form of government will ensure that there is accountability. Now, this is the argument offered even by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and the drafting committee while they were drafting the constitution, and supported the parliamentary form of governance in our country rather than the presidential form. To further ensure this accountability, the parliament also came up with the system of parliamentary committees. Now, the fact that these parliamentary committees have not met for the past 2 months shows that decisions have been taken unilaterally. In the present scenario, we also have certain acts like Disaster Management Act 2005, which at best can be an ad hoc measure because this act is exclusively not designed to handle an epidemic. So, however, the government is still handling the issue through this Disaster Management Act. Now, in order to ensure that we come up with a better legislation, there should be deliberation and contemplation, and discussion as to how to go about it. And that can happen only through parliamentary sessions and discussions and debates in parliamentary committees. The author also highlights the point that Constitution requires all expenditure by the government to be approved by the parliament. The government has announced a series of measures through its Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan package to address the economic crisis sparked by this lockdown and the COVID crisis. However, this has not been subject to parliamentary scrutiny, or there is no approval at all. Thereby, it is bypassing the parliamentary norms or constitutional norms. So, at the same time, MPs have to meet again because there are certain pressing issues. This is because MPs have a duty to shape policy and guide the government in national interest. In these times of crisis, leadership is very crucial because the people are equally confused and they would be looking towards their leaders to deal with this situation. Now, leaders themselves need some sort of discussions and debates to understand the situation better. There is no better platform than the parliament itself to do this. Therefore, India, because of its vast IT sector employees and the strength of its IT sector, must figure out a way to convene the parliamentary sessions again so that our parliamentary democracy is back on track. The second article for the day is taken from the Hindu and it is titled "Time to Discontinue Free Power for Farmers." This is in the context of the draft electricity amendment bill that was placed in public forum for discussion. So, what is this bill talking about? So, we'll be discussing about one particular aspect of the bill, that is the direct benefit transfer instead of free power to farmers. 15 years ago, Dr. Manmohan Singh said that this idea of free power is not a healthy idea, and ever since, many state governments have been ensuring that this is an electoral promise because it gave them votes. Free power has always been one of the most vote grabbing measures for many states. However, this turned out to be a very unsustainable way of providing power for the farmers. Even though the idea of subsidized power for farmers is a noble intention, but it should not happen indiscriminately. Recognizing this fact, many experts have cautioned the governments time and again that they should relook at their policies. Now, with this draft amendment bill, this provision of DBT has been attempting to change this status quo. So, what exactly is happening here is, instead of directly offering free power to the farmers, the government has decided to take the use of the concept of direct benefit transfer. That is, farmers have to pay upfront and later they would be reimbursed. The second point that we have to note here is, there is also a time frame. By next year, the state governments must implement this scheme. In 1984, Tamil Nadu for the very first time introduced the concept of free power for farmers, and therefore they were the first ones to respond to this centre's conception of the electricity amendment bill. So, the Chief Minister of the state has taken a very clear stand against this proposal. So, again, there are other Chief Ministers like that of Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Punjab, where free power scheme is running right now. They are yet to express their views. Unofficially, the Chief Minister of Telangana has expressed his displeasure at the present format of the bill. So, Karnataka is the first one to implement this scheme. Maharashtra also experimented with this scheme and scrapped it in the very first year of its introduction. So, the power subsidy bills in the 4 southern states and Punjab together are at least 33,000 crores. So, this is an amount the state governments will struggle to meet due to resource crunch in the light of the COVID-19 pandemic. One of the side effects of this scheme is wastage. wastage of both electricity as well as groundwater. If you take the case of Punjab, a large amount of groundwater is used indiscriminately because of this free power. So India may be one of the largest user of groundwater, and this has exceeded the combined withdrawal by China and USA together. Also, because of this widespread dependence on bores, we also see in the southern states especially where bore wells are dug indiscriminately, and we have already seen a lot of cases where children playing in those areas fall in those pits and they lose their lives. This is not a one-off incident. In the past 20 years, a lot of similar incidents happened because the poor farmers are in a hope that they will find some water source for their fields, and when they dig the bores, they don't find any water. Now, they don't have the capacity to refill that dug pits. So, that is also one issue. The next issue is that of pump sets. These areas have to spend a lot of money, and the farmers from these areas have to spend a lot of money on submersible or high capacity pump sets, which are very costly. And lastly, it is causing a huge loss to the DISCOMs because of the power theft and also because of certain corrupt officers who try to use the scheme for earning kickbacks. Having looked at all the downsides, now let us have a look at the argument for free power. So those who believe that these free power schemes should be allowed, they have a very logical point on one front. Free power, apart from ensuring food security, will give livelihood opportunities to the landless laborers. Now, it is this section of laborers or agricultural laborers that we have to focus upon. When farmers dependent on supplies through canals get water almost free of cost, it is fair that those who are not covered by canal irrigation should be given free electricity. So that is where free electricity can work. However, even these people should use all this free resources very judicially, because these are the times where sustainable use becomes very much necessary in our day-to-day life. So making use of the situation created by the COVID-19 pandemic, the center is definitely trying to make some important changes in areas which are meant to be corrected a long while ago. However, with respect to this free power scheme, it requires the consensus of the states and the willingness of the states. So this will save a lot of money and change the mindsets of farmers as well. That is the gist of this article.